Defense Ministry spokesman Kyrylo Budanov predicts that the current decline in Russian offensive actions will end soon, namely in 1.5 to 2 months. Thus, Budanov is adjusting his own estimate, which was made a few weeks ago, according to which this offensive would be completed in about 6 months or a month. Now, answering questions from graduates of the Kyiv School of Economics, he noted that the main offensive of the Russian army should end in a month and a half to 2 months, as this offensive has already dragged on. According to him, the practice of a decade-long war shows that the offensive potential of any party is limited, and no side can sustain an offensive for more than 2 months. Let's listen to Budanov's direct speech. In a month and a half to 2 months, the main pressure of the Russian army should be over, because the offensive has already been dragged out. But we know that after the recession and a short lull, there will be new attempts by the enemy to attack, and we are preparing for this. Will we just sit and wait for it to happen again in 4 or 5 months, or will we be proactive? The head of the main intelligence directorate notes that the aggressor's offensive is nearing 3 months, leading to a potential decline. However, after a lull, new attacks are expected and preparations are underway. He believes the future situation will depend partly on Ukraine. Also, if you're watching online, the donation link is in the video description.
Якщо дивитесь нас в онлайні, то посилання на збір буде в описі до відео.
Or you can scan the QR code on TV.
Якщо бачите нас по телевізору.
And finally, the enormous losses of Russians in the Donetsk region. The Mi-8 military helicopter that was shot down near Donetsk had as many as 20 people on board, Russian occupiers, including crew members and the wounded. All this is reported by the Rostov media outlet Rostov Novosti, which writes that the helicopter a Russian Guard Mi-8 crashed near Donetsk last week. And I'll remind you of the case when the Russians shot down their own helicopter. There were wounded on board, as well as the crew. 20 people were killed. The data shows 2 Rostov region residents, flight engineer Panomarov from Kamensk and Senior Lieutenant Tagadrian, a medical platoon commander from Tselina. They will never attack Ukraine again. They will never attack peaceful people who have never wished anyone harm. But on February 24th, Putin decided to launch his special operation, which continues. We see the Ukrainian breakthrough in Kursk, as Putin calls it, as a major provocation. He finally responded to the special operation on the second day, which is going according to plan, but not according to Putin's plan, and not where Putin plans his special operations. The demilitarized zone is moving into Russian territory, apparently already largely demilitarized, and 11 more settlements are, according to Russian propagandists, under Ukrainian control, either temporarily or less so. I would like to believe that Ukraine, if it does conduct this operation, will be able to gain a foothold in this territory, and not only in this territory as an argument in negotiations with Russia and the West. This would probably be the best argument, but we are not overestimating our expectations. We are working with you, researching information, doing everything possible for Ukraine's victory over Russia. However, in the back of our minds, as the Russians say, although they seem to use it that way sometimes, we keep in mind that combat operations can be conducted not only on the territory of Ukraine, but also on the territory of Russia. That is why we are doing everything possible, donating, preparing, and keeping the reserve on standby. Channel 24 has recently demonstrated a good example in this regard, and we will tell you more about it. You might have heard that over 50 people have been trained in TACMED. We'll discuss that later. But first, let's listen to Putin's statement in his own words. Good afternoon, colleagues. We have an extensive agenda for the main areas of government activity, but we will have to start with the events in the Kursk region. As you know, the Kyiv regime has launched another large-scale provocation and is firing indiscriminately with various types of weapons, including rockets at civilian buildings, residential homes, and ambulances. This is incredible, and I thought they were just blowing away the group that was planning to attack the Sumy region, and that you were looking for, in pre-combat or even combat order for your terrorist attacks, and, as you say, indiscriminate shelling, because you have been doing it for 10 years in Ukraine alone, and for many more years in other parts of the world. And now it turns out that somebody is firing indiscriminately at Russia. No, I'm sure the shelling targets military assets, as shown by the number of destroyed and captured vehicles reported in Telegram channels, including a Russian tank. There are also reports of dozens of captured Russians in Kursk. This indicates high efficiency and a focus on demilitarizing Russian troops and border controls. Well, this is actually not the only special military operation Ukraine is conducting these days. If it is indeed confirmed that it is not aliens, Belarusians, Russian volunteers, or just an internal rebellion, maybe the Russian army just withdrew their tanks. If it is indeed confirmed that Ukraine is conducting an operation in the Kursk region, it turns out that the Kursk People's Province is not the only special operation of Ukraine. The Ukrainian main intelligence Directorate reports that special forces from the Arten Active Action Unit and DIU Maritime Center conducted a successful operation in the northern Black Sea, destroying occupiers, their equipment, and fortifications. The footage you see on your screens now was shot, as you can see, either at dawn or at sunset, but one way or another, deep behind enemy lines, on the temporarily occupied territory of Crimea, on one of the spits. Literally at night, a special forces landing party landed on Tendra Spit and destroyed enemy armored vehicles, including MTLBs, enemy electronic warfare systems, and destroyed Russian fortifications. Russian invaders suffered personnel losses during the battle. The exact number is unknown. The GUR emphasizes that the soldiers completed the mission, including the secret part of it, and withdrew without losses. Intelligence reports that this is not the first successful Special Forces operation on Tendra Spit. These actions are part of a larger plan being implemented by the security and defense forces. The Tendra Spit is an axial peninsula, about 65 kilometers long and slightly less than 2 kilometers wide, located in the northern part of the Black Sea off the coast of Kherson Oblast. Although I spoke earlier about the proximity to the Crimean Peninsula, the Spit is actually located between the Kherson region and the Crimean Peninsula.
Кримського півострова, але так чи інакше це між Херсонщиною і Кримським півостровом.